Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Siegel. I'm a activist and just citizen who cares deeply about this country and justice and equality and living in and passing along a sustainable earth to our children and grandchildren. And I just watched a great interview with Susan Sarandon on Chris Hayes' show. And I was so impressed with Miss Sarandon and what she had to say. I just had to comment about it. Um, Chris Hayes asked Susan Sarandon if she thought it was dangerous, the idea of not supporting Hillary Clinton in light of the possibility of Trump being elected. I really appreciate the clarity of her answer, which was, and I'm paraphrasing, um, if you don't see the danger of shoring up a status quo, this status quo, with a status quo candidate that takes money from all the big corporations like Monsanto, Big Oil, and others who either poison our planet with fracking and round up cancer causing products or prey on workers paying slave wages, then you're not really in touch with the status quo. The status quo, how things are right now, is very bad for the majority of Americans in our country. She went on to say that if you think a candidate like Hillary Clinton, who takes huge amounts of money from these same companies who travel the world pushing fracking and the TPP, is suddenly going to see the light, once in office and do things differently than she's done her entire career, then that's very naive, dangerously naive. Now, Mr. Hayes then responded, well, people would say that President Obama took money from these same companies and he's been able to rein them in and regulate them. The surprised look on Susan Sarandon's face was really priceless. I have the same look when I hear people say that. I'd like to see how, she said. And, I would too. I'd like to remind people that not a single banker who defrauded millions of Americans out of their homes, causing them to lose their jobs, in some cases, their health care insurance, because you lose your job sometimes, you lose your health care insurance, their savings, and worse, their marriages were lost. And their retirement was put on hold and they had to keep working. Their lives literally ravaged, destroyed by the greed of these people. Not one of them has been put on trial and sent to prison. The only one person who's been put on trial that I know of is Madoff, and he was only tried and jailed because he defrauded rich people. So Attorney General Holder actually said that these banks and bankers are too big to jail. Too big to jail. It would be too disruptive to sue them for the actual crimes that they committed because it's too complex and too disruptive. And as for taking money from big oil, the Obama administration oversaw the largest expansion of fracking in America's history, and without an effort to undo the Cheney loophole that lets the fracking companies avoid disclosing what chemicals they're using to pump the chemicals into our lands and eventually our water systems. And someone like Chris Hayes, who knows this issue inside and out, has had Josh Fox on his show many times, should really understand this. That yes, money does matter. In my experience, whomever pays my bills and signs the check, well, that's my boss. And I'm not really very likely to stand up to them and tell them what to do. Would you? No, because we want to keep our jobs. And that's the position that politicians are in. That's what happens when we let billionaires and corporations, huge corporations, pay our candidates so they can keep their jobs, i.e. run their campaigns and get reelected and keep their jobs. We're the ones who are supposed to be their bosses. We're the ones with our tax dollars who are supposed to be paying their bills, so they listen to us. Because that's the way it works in America. When somebody pays your paycheck, you listen to them. And the voters are supposed to be the bosses. But if we let other people come in, billionaires and uh, millionaires and corporate PACs and oil companies and insurance companies, and dole out money to them and pay them instead of us, well, you can only have one master. You can only have one boss. That's who's paying your paycheck. That's who you listen to. And politicians who are public servants should be listening to us, to you and me, to taxpayers, doing what we say, not what the very wealthiest, most powerful people in the country and world say. That's why it's so important to get big money out of politics and get regular people like you and me in. And that's what Bernie Sanders is fighting for. So people like Hillary Clinton will be a status quo candidate because she said she wants to keep things the way they are and build on the progress that we've made in the last 8 years. She doesn't want everyone to have health care as a human right. She wants Obamacare to continue. We have 30 million people, 29 million people with no health care. Imagine you have diabetes, you have cancer, you have some terrible disease, you hurt yourself, you're hit by a car, you have no health insurance. Imagine your loved ones in that position. It's a terrible way to live. No other country in the civilized world, advanced economies do this. They all provide health care through their taxation, through their deciding through their society together. It's best that everyone should be treated when they're sick or hurt. It's humane. It's we're human beings. We deserve to be able to have health care. It's a right. It's not something that maybe someday, if we work really hard, we'll have the right to have health care for everybody if we could just convince enough Republicans that it's okay. No, it's a human right that we need to fight for. So people are quite literally dying today in the status quo economy we have. They're dying from being cast out of this free trade, quote unquote, global economy. The global economy is the opposite of a local economy. When companies like Walmart come into a community, all of the mom and pop independently owned stores around them suddenly go out of business. They can't compete with this global giant, Walmart, that comes in and demands that the products that they buy locally have to have a low enough cost so that they have to be made from China. So what they do is they take all of our factory jobs and ship them over to China because they demand to do business with them. The prices have to be so low, and the only way to get those low prices is with virtual slave wage labor in countries like China. And so they destroy our local independent mom and pop hardware stores and other stores economy on main streets, and they pay their workers on top of it so little that you and I have to subsidize their income. You and I have to pay through our taxpayer taxes every year because the average workers there at Walmart have to get food stamps and other government aid because Walmart won't pay them a decent living wage in today's world. So these are predatory companies that have come into our communities, and that's what globalization means. It means that factories that had good jobs have left, and people who had, some college and trade and skills, who previously could make a good living, became unemployable. People like me, 53 years old, with some college education, some who had been employed for self-employed for years and out of the employment workforce pool for over a decade, they're unemployable, and they have such high stress that we are people, mostly white blue collar people in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, are dying now. And Google it, reported record high rates of death from drug overdoses, from heart attacks, from strokes, and from suicides. People have just despair because, in America, we're told that when your self-worth is your ability to earn money for your family. And when you can't earn money because you can't get a job anymore because your factory's been closed down, and you can't go to work at the GM plant because it's no longer here, or you can't get a good union paying job because they busted the unions, and you're no longer employable because you're 55 years old, and they're only hiring 20-year-olds out of college to be unpaid interns, then that's devastating to people, to men's self-worth. And then on top of that, your body starts to break down as you get older, and you maybe have diabetes or arthritis, or your hands don't work so well, your back hurts, and it's harder to work. And you have to, you need health care. That's really good. That's not going to make you go broke paying high copays. But that's the reality we live in. It's a matter, this is not economic theory. This is not some argument between Paul Krugman and Robert Reich or some other, economist. This is a matter of life and death. This is a matter of suffering for people with chronic ailments and injuries and unemployment. This is a matter of deep sorrow in America that doesn't need to exist. A living wage job should be as much a human right as healthcare is, as water is, as housing is, as equal treatment under the law, regardless of if you're born to a poor family or a rich family, is a human right. People who care about such things should commit to only vote for candidates who pledge to enact public campaign financing of elections like Bernie Sanders has. Because again, whoever pays the bills, that's the boss. And in public financing of elections, we're the boss. We pay the bills. You, if you have a good idea, should be able to run for Congress or for the state Senate, Assembly, City Council. But it costs a lot of money now to run for these offices. And so you can only afford to run if you could know a lot of rich people who will give you hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. And the average American who understands then how hard it is to pay the bills, to pay rent. Most 11 million people in this country pay 50 to 80% of their income on rent. People are becoming homeless because they can't afford the high cost of rent. People like us who understand how hard it is in America need to be able to be in our government to do something about it. But the majority of people in Congress are multimillionaires. Doesn't mean they're bad people. They're surrounded with high-priced lawyers and lobbyists and media people who are also millionaires. And they're mostly out of touch with the people on the left and the right who have been devastated by what's going on with this NAFTA and TPP and our middle class being hollowed out. They're just out of touch. And that's why people are voting for grassroots candidates and saying that they don't feel like they're Democrat or Republican. So we need campaign finance reform. We need public financing of elections. We need to overturn Citizens United. And people who care about this should only vote for candidates who will pledge to enact public campaign financing of elections like Bernie Sanders. And people who have integrity, who when they say something, they're not just saying it to get elected. They're saying it because they mean it, and they've held that position for years and fought for it, even when it's not about winning an election or getting accolades, or it's not popular. And we should ask store managers when we go in there how much they pay their workers, and if their wages actually rise regularly. I do. I know many people may not be comfortable doing that, but when I go in to shop at a place or to a restaurant, I ask, well, what do your workers make here? How often do they get raises? Can they form a union? I say, I love your place. I love your establishment. I want to tell all my friends to shop here or to eat here. But I want to make sure the people who are working here are have a humane place to work that respects their dignity. Otherwise, I'm not comfortable spending my money here. I think if we all did that more and more of us did that, we could change the consciousness of our country. And I think that we could ask stores that we go into, hey, do you have this product or do you have that product that's made in America? I'd really love to shop here, and I'd love to tell all my friends, but I'd love to shop at a place that pays their employees at least $15 an hour, which is a living wage in America, and makes an effort to find things that we make here in America so we can create jobs. My father was a tradesman. His father was a tradesman. My grandmother was a seamstress. We made things. We had a garment industry in New York was massive. We made our own shoes in America. We don't make our own shoes in America anymore. We don't make our own clothes in America anymore. We don't make much of our own furniture like my dad did in America. But, it's really important to have a strong middle class that we make things in America. And we have to stand up and say what we want. And we have the power to decide, but not if we stay silent and not if we just say, oh, change is hard. Change is hard. Let's not try. Let's just do the status quo. Easy as we go. No, it's not easy. There's too much suffering and sorrow for too many people, and it's got to change. When we all stand up together and demand it, that we could do much, much better. We could do much better. We have to demand that we look after each other, because that's what makes America great, that we look after each other, we work together, we collaborate. We expect more of each other. We pitch in and we respect each other. And our diversity is what makes us strong. It is not a problem. They offer guaranteed health care as a human right in Scandinavian countries, in Germany, in France, and all over the world. And people say, oh, that's just in Switzerland or Finland. And they're homogeneous. They look the same. They're all from the same ethnicity. We can't do that in America. It's too hard. We're too diverse. Our diversity is our strength. That's what makes America great. We can do even better because we have a rich mixture of cultures and ideas and experiences. We can do a national healthcare system even better than they can in the rest of the world. Our diversity makes us strong, because we are all immigrants. We all have immigrants in our family, unless you're Native American. And, we should form worker-owned companies, co-ops, where employees get to make decisions together about how much we pay each other, how much we pay the CEOs. They don't make 500 times what the average worker does, and they can't decide with some board member they have a deal with to close our factory and ship all of our jobs to China or the Philippines or India, because we all decide together. That's democracy at work. So that's our future, worker-owned companies where we decide together, we manage our companies together, and we profit and prosper together in a democratically fair way. So I really love that Bernie Sanders has said that he is for promoting more co-ops and worker-owned companies in America, and making it easier for people to form unions so we can make decisions together in a democratic way in America. We should seek opportunities to help those finally around us who are less fortunate than ourselves. Really see people. I was telling my mom about what FDR did to get us out of the Depression with his great jobs programs, rebuilding, planting 1 billion trees in America, and because people were suffering, were in bread lines, food lines, they were going to debtors' prisons, and were really suffering in America. And FDR said, I'm going to create the jobs if the private sector won't, and I'm going to give people the dignity of being able to feed their families through work. And Bernie Sanders wants to do that with a jobs program to rebuild America too. And I said, look, I was driving down in Long Beach where you live, and on the median, right there on the highway, there's a woman standing with a sign saying, homeless, hungry, please God, somebody help me, in America. And on the side of the same street, there was a little cardboard village right on the main street where homeless people were living in cardboard, like in a third world country. That should be unacceptable. This is the richest country in the world. And so I was telling her, look, you can drive down, Redondo Boulevard, and your own main streets here, and see why we need change. We need bold, compassionate, decisive change in America. So finally, let's realize that we have the power to stop looking vertically for solutions. Not all solutions come down from the president and government and our bosses, but to look to each other to solve our problems, to help each other, to work together, to um, shop with each other's small businesses, to employ people, to talk to people, ask them how they're doing, how we could help each other, to pitch in to our country, to our neighborhoods, and to volunteer to make our communities stronger where we can. And I think when we build these circles, wider and wider circles of community and compassion, and we get involved and we run for office where we're able to, and we support good people like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and many others who want to rebuild America and rebuild justice for all in America. When we do that, we're going to really make progress and leave a better America to our children and to their children. That's what my dad wanted to do, and he did. He worked really hard, and he went to war, and he came back on the GI Bill, and he started a business, and he started a family, and he left. He lived through the Depression, and he left a better America to me, and my mom did, and we should want to leave a better America to our children and to their children. And to do that, we need to work together and to think big and to not accept the status quo where people are working slave wage jobs and suffering without health care. And we could do that. I urge you to vote for Bernie Sanders, to look into him at berniesanders.com. Google him, go to YouTube and look up his videos. It goes back to like the 80s, and you can see that he's been consistent in what he's saying. Get involved, volunteer, talk to your neighbors, tell them to come out and vote. Look up phone banking, berniesanders.com, phone bank/phone bank. Believe in each other. Believe in that we can do good things. We can do great things in America. We built this country, and we've had some problems, and we've done some wrong things, but we could come together and do some right things now. And we could do great things together by deciding together that we expect a compassionate, just, fair, and healthy America. Thank you, everybody. I'm Joe Siegel. I blog at josephsiegel.com, and that's it for now. Thanks. Peace.